Hello and welcome everyone. My name is AdlerGG and this is an exclusive Gamers Class item guide for Magic Stick and Magic Wand. And a very interesting fact about both items is that the higher we go in the MMR, or when the average MMR of a game goes up, the item is more frequently bought up to the Immortal rank. And if we take a look at this particular game, which was played yesterday, it's Virtus Pro versus OG. We can see that every hero in the game, every single hero in this game has a magic wand in their inventory. And this is simply because, in my opinion, a magic wand after the teleport scroll is the second best item in the game.
If you like this kind of content, go to gamersguys.com. For just $10 a month, get your replays analyzed, watch masterclasses with pro players, join weekly coaching sessions, win prizes, and more with our Supreme Dota 2 membership.
So the item itself does give us the possibility to store charges, and every charge grants us 15 mana and 15 HP. And the important part is that we can only obtain charges if something is cast around our hero position, and the range to obtain charges is 1200 units. So if we take a look at the Blink Dagger range, this is pretty much the charge range. A wand can store up to 15 charges and the stick can store up to 10 charges. And the charge is generated whenever a spell with mana cost is cast. So any form of orb effects, like if you have a Silencer Glaive, this is not a spell, it is an attack, so it will not generate a charge. And items with mana cost also do not grant a charge, so if someone casts a Yule Scepter around you, you do not generate a charge. The important part is that a charge is only granted if the enemy hero is visible. So if a spell is cast in the Fog of War and you don't have vision, you do not generate a charge. So if you want a charge, you have to have vision on the target that casts the spell. And the magic stick can be upgraded into a wand and it grants additional stats. And the magic wand can later be upgraded into a holy locket. I think the holy locket itself is in a really bad spot at the moment. It's probably one of the most underused items in the game. And it is only bought on very special heroes in very special conditions. And like you can upgrade the wand basically on Witch Doctor, Dazzle, Chan and Timber, and maybe on a Necro, but it is rarely done because there are usually better options, so people just keep the wand. Before we hop into more specific stuff, I want to talk about the general stick and wand pickups that we need to consider. So whenever you face heroes on your lane that cast spells frequently, in vision, you want to buy a stick as soon as possible. And there's two heroes in particular that you want to start with a magic stick, which is Bat Rider and Bristleback, because both heroes will always cast their spells in range of you. And this will allow you to generate a lot of charges during the laning stage. The second 100% pickup is when you play a tri-lane versus a tri-lane. And this is simply because there is so many spells cast that magic stick is just the best item you can buy for money. So you want to buy it as soon as possible. And if you know you're gonna play a tri-lane versus tri-lane, you could potentially even start with a magic stick. So who is gonna buy stick and who is gonna buy wand, and are there exceptions? For sure there are certain exceptions, but let's hop right into the positions. So for the position 5, you always want to buy a wand at some point, no exceptions, every game. And the important part is that you figure out if you can delay the wand a little bit, but you want to have a landing, during landing stage, you want to have a stick as soon as possible on position 5s, and then you can decide if you go a little bit more greedy. I think the rule of thumb here is that you queue up the magic wand into your quick buy, and if you die you just buy out the wand, and if you can get away being a little bit more greedy and buying maybe raindrops or a wind lace first, you can also go with that. Then we have position 4. I think every position 4 in the game always buys a stick, but sometimes you see position 4s skipping the wand, and this is because some heroes are timing based. And to give you an example, Earthshaker and Tiny are very frequently picked up position 4 heroes, and you oftentimes see that they do not upgrade their wand because they go super greedy and just buy a stick and try to hit their dagger timing as early as possible, but they always keep their wand in the quick buy, and if they die and they know that their dagger timing will be delayed, they just buy out the wand to not lose any gold. Then for position 3s, I think most position 3s just buy a stick for the landing stage itself already, but you oftentimes see stick skips on range intelligence heroes that want to null talismans first, like a Pugna offlane or Venomancer offlane also can skip the sticks sometimes, but on all Strange offlaners you will always see a stick, and the only time they delay it is if they are forced to jungle. So for example, if you pick a Magnus offlane and you get bullied out of the lane, or an Axe, and there's not much you can do, maybe you get tri-lane, then you can skip the stick and the wand for some time and try to catch up in the jungle, and then around the 10 to 12 minute mark pick up the stick and the wand, because you still want it on Strange heroes in particular, because your base mana pool is too low and the free all stats that the wand itself provides help a lot, and also the charges. For position 2, which is the mid lane, you always want a wand on tempo controlling mid laners. So in this particular game, I think we have Thompson playing the Tiny here, and he will rotate a lot, and whenever you rotate a lot, you want a magic wand and a magic stick. And the golden rule here again is if you want to play a little bit more greedy in the mid lane itself, and your opponent in the mid lane is not casting too many spells, you can be a little bit greedy on the stick pickup and make sure you have the stick and the wand available once you start rotating to generate a lot of charges during the skirmishes. And if we take a look at this game, we have a Quas Vex Invoker, I believe, and he also bought a pretty early wand for his initial rotations, so he gets back a little bit of mana and HP in those early game skirmishes on the sidelines. A few position 2 heroes can skip the wand and the stick. And to give you an idea, so we have basically 2 types in mid lane. So we have tempo controlling heroes, and we have basically position 1 heroes played in the mid lane, and they're basically the true carry. So we have OD, for example, and Alchemist. And if you do not need the stick in the matchup you play and you just jungle and push out lanes, you can skip the magic stick here as well entirely, and maybe buy a bracer or try to hit an earlier armlet timing, for example. So whenever you play hard carry style in the mid lane, you can skip the stick and the wand entirely if your hero doesn't require the additional mana later on in team fights. Then for the position 1, we also see a lot of magic wand and magic stick pickups. Here, for example, I think it's GPK playing the Void, and you can see he has a backpack magic wand. So for position 1s you also always want to have a wand, but there's a few exceptions as well. So whenever you are pushed out of the lane and there's not too many spells cast in the initial laning stage and you need to play catch up already at the 5-minute mark, you can skip the stick and the wand and just hit straight into the jungle. But there's a lot of heroes that still need the wand later on, for example a Chaos Knight or a Wraith King, so you can delay the stick and the wand in those scenarios, try to catch up in the jungle and buy it later around the 10 to 15-minute mark. So the golden rule for core positions is if your hero requires mana in fights with low base mana pool, you always buy a wand, and generally speaking you can always delay it a little bit if you're not laning, and you can simply try to catch up in the jungle and buy it later on. So let's take a look at this particular game, the second game in this series, and here we have some examples when stick can be skipped entirely, and I will also explain why they did it and how you can figure out how to skip the stick and wand. So we have a tempo controlling mid laner here with the Kunkka, but he bought a bottle and he's playing a matchup that doesn't really require the wand, so either he plays versus the Alchemist or the Morphling in mid, so they're not casting that many spells. And another very important fact is that he needs to hit the item timing on the Spirit Vessel in this game, so he basically trades the wand money for the Urn of Shadows, which is 500 gold versus 800 gold, so he uses the money that he would usually spend on the wand to rush the urn into Vessel. We also have a position 5 in this game that does not have a magic wand or a stick, which is the Chen, and this is simply because the Chen has a lot of sustain baseline and he can't cast spells in a fight frequently. We saw that Penitence got picked up on level 10 here, so for the first 22 minutes of the game he only had the Divine Favor and Holy Persuasion, and Persuasion is usually not used in a fight that often, and Divine Favor is usually also only used before the fight to TP someone in, so we basically have no spells that we cast in a fight, so the mana from the stick is basically useless when we gain charges, and the HP is also pretty much useless because we sit at an insane base HP region with the Divine Favor aura and the Mech aura, and we have 2 heals in form of the Hand of God and the Mech heal, so the magic stick is simply not useful here, and the wand also. And for the Beastmaster, he also opted to skip the wand in this particular game, and this is because he was laning against high cooldown heroes that do not use their spells to do any form of damage or to harass him. So we have probably Void and Enchantress that he laned against, so those heroes do not cast that many spells, especially if you're AFK farming and there's no time walks, so you don't generate charges at all. And it's a Beastmaster, and Beastmaster is basically played in a way that you want to rush the Necronomicon as fast as possible, especially the level 1 Necronomicon, so you can start farming Ancients and the jungle. So he doesn't want to spend any additional gold on the magic stick or wand and just straight rush the Necro 1. So he follows basically the same rule as the Kunkka, which wanted to get the Spirit Vessel as soon as possible. So in those cases you can delay the magic stick and magic wand or skip it entirely, but generally you always want to have a wand with very few exceptions. So my name is AdlerGG and thanks for watching.